Welcome to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, George Norrie, and I'm here with Emery Smith. Time travel technologies, do they exist? And if so, how are they being used? Emery, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, George.
Time travel technologies, exactly what is it and what's involved with it?
Well, what they're trying to do and replicate is portal technology that they have discovered from an earthly origin a very, very long time ago. And there is a connection between this type of traveling that also affects time and space. So they are trying to actually replicate that and make that into electronics and make a synthetic version of this. And they have actually done this.
Now, when you say they, who are we talking about?
We're talking about the compartmentalized projects that the security is only run by the military, but the project itself could be owned by, major corporations that are clandestine that get funded by the governments around the world to make other technologies for them, whether it be for, wartime, peacetime, or so these monies that are made from these smaller projects that they're doing funds their secret projects such as time travel and things like this.
So specifically, Emery, how does time travel work? Because we hear all kinds of things and all kinds of possibilities.
Well, the first thing you need is a lot of energy, number one. A lot of the side effects of these zero-point energy over unity devices create this type of rip in time and space. And it has to do with enfolding space on itself, actually, and opening up the space within time, right here in front of you. Because that right there is how our extraterrestrials actually travel through the universe and interdimensionally. They're creating their own field of energy, number one, which is their own gravitational field that they sit in. That's why they can do these billion-mile-an-hour right-hand turns and nothing happens to them, because they're in their own field. And by putting energy and focusing it in front of these craft, they can actually open up interdimensionally a space rift in time and go through it. And that's why they sometimes just poof, disappear in space.
Do they have like a dial on any apparatus and they could click it to 3015 and poof, you'll show up there?
Well, it's kind of like that, but it's called consciousness-assisted technology, and it's all done with their consciousness. The craft also are integrated with the beings. Some of them are actually grown, these craft, and they are matched to the DNA of the pilot. So all the pilot has to do is think of that dial turning to 350 whatever degrees, and poof, they're gone.
There they are.
Yep.
The more and more I watch you on Cosmic Disclosure, I hear new information that just boggles my mind. In this particular case, how do they use this kind of technology?
Well, what they're doing is, like I said, time is a very sensitive subject with the physicists and the scientists around the world that are not part of the clandestine projects, because it's a hard thing to grasp, because time really doesn't exist. And what's going on is there's multiple levels of time right now and multiple different types of realities and dimensions. So there is a dimension right now, just within a different frequency right now, where you are here and I'm here, and it's just a little bit different. Maybe these coffee cups are not here, or the cameras, or it might be some different people, because there's many different levels. The hardest thing to explain is that time is irrelevant because you are already here everywhere, all the time, which means, I know it sounds confusing.
But don't go back and see your grandfather, right?
Right, and that's a big question I get. Like, what if you go back in time and you did something? Well, you just created another time reality. So that's another space of time. But you're still where you're at right now. And if you think you can go back and remove the coffee mug, and then all of a sudden, it's not there, it doesn't work that way at all.
I mean, if you wanted to go back into time and do away with Hitler and prevent World War II and the Holocaust and all that horror that he created, what would happen if you went back into time, took care of him, got rid of him, and what would the consequences be?
Consequences would not affect you because in this reality that never happened.
Interesting. But would there be a reality somewhere
there is,
where it did happen?
Correct.
And what would happen there?
Well, it's what's happening right now. That's the paradigm here, is trying to put all that together, saying, okay, there are multiple dimensional realities and there's multiple different types of time zones that we are all part of. We're interdimensional, multiple dimension beings. And that's where frequency comes in with DNA and genetics and how, we affect, other worlds and other places in the universe.
What if there are other universes, the multiverse exists?
Oh, right.
Would different time things occur in those different universes?
Right, exactly. I get that question a lot too. So the different universes have, another George and another Emery there. And at this time, you have to realize that it's a whole another timeline that we're part of, but we're not because we're here. That's the best way I could put it.
These programs, I'll call them the time programs.
Sure.
Were you involved with them specifically? And if so, what did you do?
Well, there was a program I was involved with where they were using a special type of Teslatron unit where we would take a watch in with us in this small hexagon room and spend, supposedly 55 minutes in there. And I remember the first time after working with this project for many years to even become one of the people to go into it, that you have two watches and you put one in your locker room, you lock it up, you take the other one with you into this device. And the first time after waiting 2 years to get into it, I was so thankful that I was finally able to get the proper security clearance and to get into this device. And going into this device as they ramp it up, I remember hearing, after just 15 minutes, this knock at the door saying, okay, Smith, it's, you need to come out now, we're done. Because I heard the system ramp up.
Probably you were in there 9 years and didn't know it, right?
Well, exactly, I was in there for a whole hour. And I had no idea.
What did it feel like?
When I came out, I was so upset. I was so distraught saying, man, what happened? Did the system have a malfunction? And then all the scientists are looking at each other, and they're all like over 100 years of age, and they're laughing. And they said, oh, didn't you check your watch in your locker? And I said, no. So, I missed a good 30, 45 minutes.
And didn't even know it.
And I did not know it because the 15 minutes I was in there, really, I felt, it was an amazing experience. You can see the universe, you could see space, you could, it actually detoxes you and teletransports toxins out of your body. Sometimes people lose up to 15 pounds in these trips that they go in there.
In one sitting?
In one sitting, in 55 minutes. And I always asked, well, where does that go? Because I still have the same hydration when they did the blood test, and I'm not dehydrated, but yet all the horrible negative ionic bacteria, viruses, and metals in my body were taken out. So people that are really toxic that go in there, really a lot of this stuff
come back healthy.
Right, they come back very healthy. It's used to treat cancers for the elites of the world. Even our presidents. A lot of side effects of zero-point energy devices do this, and a lot of scientists that have, including Tesla, have witnessed this and wrote this down, that there's some field, this sphere that forms, which has happened to me in my laboratories, where the time is getting distorted for a moment.
Sure.
But with this device, they really perfected it pretty well. Where we always were trying to find out, wow, there must be some dimension somewhere where someone's sitting there, maybe an extraterrestrial, and a big wad of fat comes down and hits them in the face, or some toxins, Someone just jumps a bucket of something. But with this specific project, you're really going in there to get treated for something, for an ailment.
Okay.
But what the side effect is time.
Right.
It's losing time.
You lose time, but you don't age.
Right.
Right?
Right, and that's why all these scientists in this underground facility in New York, actually, were so young and vibrant and over 100 years of age. And I remember, working on some things for them just as a technician, listening to their conversations, and they were like talking like they knew Tesla. And they had a lot
They probably did.
I know. And it was like electrifying to know, wow, like, I wish I really knew exactly how old they were. And this is a civilian-owned device that was made from naval scientists that retired early.
And it must be so perfected now, I would guess, right?
Well, I think they're trying to do something. I tried to contact them a few years ago to see if we could maybe get this technology out to the public. And one of the head scientists became ill, and I had lost contact, with that group. But we're still trying to figure it out. I think it's going to resurface soon because the medical benefits of this time-traveling device is unprecedented. You know, they were able to cure HIV in 30 days, herpes, and
By being in the device?
just by being in the device 3 times a week.
Does it cure everything?
Well, I don't know about everything. Just the documentation I've seen and heard was, you know, with cancers and herpes and HIV, STDs, because a lot of the...
Well, why do they suppress all that stuff, Emery? Why don't they bring
Well,
it
the
to
FDA
the
will
public?
definitely not approve that device, no matter how much documentation they have.
Why?
Well, you're going up against Big Pharma, the big money maker. You know, they need you to take these pills.
So they don't, you're saying they don't want the cures?
They do not want the cures, and I can, you know, attest to that, being the inventor of the first tabletop stem cell concentrator and submitting many documents to the FDA of, you know, helping paralyzed patients and things like this. And, you know, you could send in 1,000 studies, you know, of a new technology that many scientists have tried to do here in the United States.
And nothing happens.
And nothing happens. They say, oh, you need more data. So they just keep leading you on until you get so tired and you run out of money, because most scientists and smaller corporations don't have that kind of capital to keep testing and testing and testing.
Emery, we've talked about these scientists that you would see through this time device, and you said they were 100 years old. Where'd they come from, and why were they so old?
Well, it's not that when I was inside the device, they're the ones who invented this device. And they were definitely born on Earth. They were all ex-military scientists that retired.
May have worked with Tesla.
They obviously had worked with Tesla, the way I can hear them talking behind the scenes and joking around. They were all in excellent shape. They were all over 100 years of age. They were still aging. They didn't get that secret, you know, figured out yet. But the fact that, you know, these people in these compartmentalized projects who have been there forever, by the way, these are civilian-owned compartmentalized projects, but they are ran by ex-military scientists.
Have you traveled in time, backward in time, and forward in time?
I don't know if I was traveling backward or forward, because I was never around people or any types of, you know, anything that I could tell that it was Earth.
It's not like you could look at a calendar that said 1804.
It wasn't like I was, you know, what's his name on Back to the Future, where, you know, he could, you know, type something
Michael J.
in.
Fox.
Yeah, you can't, it's not like that at all. It's a great concept.
When you arrive at a destiny in time, do you like go through a portal? Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, it's kind of like a veil. And it's not like you see in these movies where there's this giant Stargate with all these flashing lights. It really is a clear, blurry veil, just a veil like a curtain in front of you. And I can see right through it and see you. Like if the veil was in front of me, I could still see you, but it's a blur. It's like a blurry, kind of like a plexiglass you're looking through. And as soon as you walk through it, you're not there anymore. You're at your destination.
Poof, you're gone. So how do you come back?
Yeah, well, you just turn around, and at that spot is the special spot to get back, whether it be at a site somewhere. Usually a lot of these things are already like of earthly origin, meaning like a Stonehenge type formation. The mechanical ones look like they're metal.
Aren't you concerned for yourself, Emery? I mean, you're talking about things that are supposed to be covert, I would assume, that are supposed to be secret, and you're risking a lot coming forward talking about this. Do you look over your shoulder? Sometimes?
I'm always on high alert, of course. The attacks have slowed down significantly ever since I stopped teaching about the zero-point energy devices and stopped, you know, really talking and inventing new cellular devices that help you heal. Since I've already have patents and all these things behind me, and it's kind of a general public about my free energy lab I used to run. Also, the devices that I have invented there have been turned over to other corporations that I have given them, and I'm still helping them develop it and perfect it. It is a very scary thing. It was. I mean, the reason the head-on collision happened to me was because I was transporting a zero-point energy device after it was validated. So I think, you know, that being said, and coming forward in November with a lot of this information, I think it was the protection of the general public and people knowing, hey, now if they kill me, I'm going to look like a martyr. You know, it's
Oh,
gonna,
no
it's gonna
question
be,
about
it's
it.
going to be horrible. Everyone's definitely going to know now. And, you know, recently we're gathering up about a few hundred documents that have been left over from my house being raided that we're going to, you know, show to the
It's
public.
what they did to Tesla when he died, too. Same
Yeah.
thing.
But I'm doing it ahead of time, hopefully.
What other countries are involved in time travel? It can't be just us.
The only ones I can verify is Germany, China, United States of America, and a couple of facilities in Australia are trying to duplicate that I know of, first and second-hand information. There might be others, maybe Brazil, you know, maybe England, but I'm not aware of it.
I've always wondered if there are time travelers roaming around this planet right now from the future. What do you think?
It's a possibility. You know, it's possible. Anything is possible when it comes to time travel. It's just, you know, finding out, you know, through these time travelers and people, because I know there's a lot of stories out there, a lot of things going on, and we don't have agents that go out to these things and, you know, like Terminator and go back and kill so-and-so's son, so there's, you know, not this president born. It just doesn't work that way. If something like that were to happen, it would be on another timeline.
But don't they go back, Emery, and try to manipulate time? So how do we know that events that are happening right now, the president's meeting with North Korea and things like that, how do we know that they weren't manipulated by some kind of time event?
Right. You would not know because, like I was telling you earlier, if someone were to go change something, it would not even be in your memory. You know, and that's why I think this may, you know, and this is just my, you know, educated guess, that this is probably happening and we wouldn't even know. That because of the field of energy that we're all connected to, if something were to, you know, change in time, that you would already be programmed to believe that never happened, or people are starting to be elevated in their own force field to realize, wait a second, I'm figuring this out, because they're having this residual memory attached, you know, to the endless field.
The deep state, we hear so much about the deep state. Were you involved with them?
No,
You were not.
no.
I'm trying to find an Emery Smith that may be involved in covert things, but that's not
Well,
you.
of course I was involved with a lot of covert things, but I don't use the pop culture term deep state. When I was, you know, an active duty member and also a contract member of, you know, corporations, I was never doing anything, you know, that was negative, you know,
Right.
of anything like that. So the deep state, I kind of stay away from that kind of term because, you know, for many of my colleagues and military veteran people who have been on lots of secret missions and things like this, we don't think of it, you know, that way, you know, and agents and spies and things like this. You know, we have a job and we're supposed to do it. And, you know, most of the time you don't know really why you're doing it. And that's, you know, one of the reasons, you know, I kind of got away from all that, because it's kind of upsetting if you knew you were a part of something that maybe was negative towards
absolutely.
a person or to the planet. And but to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any of that, you know, in my career.
Do you remember the original movie, The Time Machine, where the professor invented a time device and he sat in it? In this particular case, the apparatus to create time travel creates these portals, but you don't physically need to take a device with you, do you?
Well, no, because the device is already there. And I'm glad you brought this up.
And it stays there, right?
Right, it stays there in the field, in that its own field. And one of the first times we got one of these over Unity 0-point energy devices going in the lab, this sphere formed about 10 or 15 feet around the device. And myself and the scientists were in this sphere. And I just remember looking through this liquid sphere as we're inside a hollow sphere, but it's like a liquid,
bubble?
like a bubble. And we could see different times of the planet. I mean, we saw like dinosaurs. We saw beings.
Wow.
We saw beings and things through this like a window. Wherever you would look, you could see this, and it was so captivating. It was only for like a brief 15 seconds, but it was like, wow, we just opened some sort of time rift or something, and we're actually viewing the planet right now as it was, millions and millions and millions of years ago.
With time travel, is there that possibility that, because I think of it also as teleportation, do they send you to another planet? And if they do, what if you appear without a breathing device or something? What happens to you?
That's a great question. And what they do is they send drones through these thousands of times before they send a human being through. And some of these are programmed life forms. Some of these are mechanical drones with cameras on them. And they go through these and they come back. And we have actual recordings of everything. Also, it's like sending a satellite or sending the probe to Mars to analyze the atmosphere and all these things.
Emery, thanks. I really appreciate you being on Cosmic Disclosure.
George, thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.